Now there should be sound. Sorry about that. And of course I've got reverb because I have the monitor running. So let me take care of that. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I messed around with the mic and of course unplugged it. Okay, so let me say again, sorry about the delay. Stuff happens. And yeah, so there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First thing is there is a call to action for Tinker Different. If you're not familiar with Tinker Different, it's a web forum where you can go ask questions and you can look up reference information about vintage Macintoshes and other systems. You know, the categories they have on the site, there's vintage Apple, you've got IBM compatible PCs, Atari, Commodore, MSX, workstations, other. The Macintosh Garden's got a section. The lab. If you have a project, either hardware or software, you can put it there. The soapbox is a chat for everybody. Anyway, it's a great little website that's got you know, a lot of members from the vintage community are in there, and you can ask questions and answer questions and all sorts of things. But getting back to the call to action, there was an announcement that it's time for them to bring on new board members. They do a, I believe it's 2 board members each 2 years. They time out and or something like that. And anyway, details are here in a post about it. You could contact Justin and ask him about it. He could tell you more information, or you know, Bruce from Branca's Creations. There's several members of it that you could ask if you've got questions of it. Eric Helgeson for one. Anyway, they're looking for 2 people to step up and become board members and do some light duties. I guess it doesn't take a lot of time, but there are some things that they do. And yeah, anyway, so check it out. It's at tinkerdifferent.com. Oh yeah, and the resources are pretty cool. I like, you know, they've got manuals and circuit diagrams and all sorts of things up there about stuff. Next thing is I have a domain account now for Eric's Edge. Currently it's got the old website up there. I need to redo it. I'm going to work on you know, using a static template that's a little more modern. Anyway, but ericsedge.com is available now, so if you want to read up on stuff, I'm going to start doing some blog posts on development and things like that in there. So not everything lends itself to being a video. And last but not least, well, it's not last, second to last. Right now there's a sale going on, $12.50 per t-shirt at Threadless. Ron from Ron's Computer Videos has a site there. I do as well. I'm not sure who else has Threadless sites, but so one of my latest t-shirt designs. And thank you, Ron, for correcting me. I've been saying Rifa, it's Rifa all this time. So this is a take on Reefer Madness, which was a film from the late 20s or 30s about marijuana and crazed behavior. And so I modified the poster to be Reefas. And the basic tagline here is "Retros cry for it, PSUs die for it." So if you're interested, you can get that on a t-shirt or as a fine art print or whatever. Anyway, there's fun like that, stuff like that at my site. Here's a HyperCard play on Run DMC. Everybody has stolen that. This one's a popular one. It's the Hello World for AppleSoft Basic. Anyway, and last but not least, quackofdawn.com is my adventure game website, and you know, it's got a little bit about the game, and I'm still on track to have a beta ready, both manuals and the code for Marcintosh, and then once the beta testers have their go at it and we fix things up, I plan on releasing it at VCF Midwest in September as a box set you can buy, or there'll be a download, free download, so you can just download it. But anyway, that's it for the advertisements. Let's get into the code. I need to switch my screen. There we go. Alright, so the window title isn't centered. Yeah, that's true. Sorry about that. I'm not really much of a web developer. I was more of a server-side person, databases, that kind of thing, in programming. UX and UI are something that I'm ham-fisted with, so there you go. This is a site that Gutbomb helped me with. It's got a responsive design, so if you're on mobile, it'll do that thing. Anyway. Hey Trina. So who we got in the chat? Let's see. We have, starting at the top, Dave. Dave, I hope you get better soon. It's no fun getting injured, and it's even less fun when you get to our age. It takes longer to recover. Jamie's Hack Shack is here. And Yuli Witness. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry. Who else? Trina. Trina's Techno Babble is here. Bill Goats, morning or evening for you. Who else? Eric Rangel. Hey, Eric. I think I got everybody. Okay. So. Oh, yeah. Pet peeve of mine, people photoshopping classic Mac OS window titles and getting the padding around the titles or the position wrong. But it's, yep. Yeah, it was more for visibility because I've got this other thing, which has, the map has a centered title. So, yeah, but I understand. It's more of the aesthetic than it is trying to be an accurate representation. So, anyway, code. So, one of the things that I frequently run into is fat fingering variable names in code. And a lot of languages, there are languages that require you to instantiate a variable, and also set a default value to it. That really addresses one of the issues that, both internally with the programming language, maybe it has to be instantiated, maybe it requires a type, it's a strongly typed language. For whatever reason, like in C. Doing that helps you keep track of and make sure that you're not misspelling or have a typo in a variable name. And if you do, and a lot of languages just, you can go ahead and create a new variable and start using it right away without doing anything else, you end up not referencing the variable you thought you were. And that can be a tedious bug to track down. I had one the other day that threw me off for about 15 minutes because I had done that. I fat fingered the variable name. I tend to have long variable names, and that also lends itself to mistyping them. but I don't like using X, Y, single letter variables except for maybe loops, because you're right there at a tight section of code, so it's easy to follow it. But for others, especially globals, they tend to be long. HyperCard requires you to reference a global with the global keyword. So if you have a variable that's global in scope, you have to do a global space, variable name to declare it so that it knows you're talking about a global and not a local variable. So that lends itself to another issue that you run into. If you don't put the global at the top, it treats it as a local. I used to do Hungarian notation for variable names, where you would stick certain, like the data type of the variable and whether it's local or not, things like that, as a prefix on the variable. And then I do, it's not camel case, what is it? Because I guess I do a mix of camel case and, where the inside the variable name, your beginning of each word or section of it is uppercase and the rest is lowercase. Sometimes I'll do all uppercase for a constant, like you used to do in Pascal and some of the other languages, but I kind of gotten away from doing that. Anyway, long story short, the convention I like to use is the lowercase letter G in front of, camel toe. Yeah, Trina, you always go there, don't you? Lowercase g as a prefix on variable names that are global. It helps me to keep track of whether I'm on a global or not. Pascal case starts with uppercase. Thank you, Eric. I learned Pascal in college, but I preferred C, and Pascal has some nice things that I like. For example, begin and end line up with the beginning of a function, so that you can, in the same indentation, you can tell when routine begins and end. Kernighan and Ritchie style for C puts the curly brace for the begin at the end of the first line of the statement, and then lines up the ending curly brace underneath the beginning of the statement. Drives me nuts. I like the Pascal style for it, so I always line my curly braces up left justified, basically. So anyway, a linter. What is a linter? A linter was a bit of code that the guy working on yacc wrote because he was having problems with running into things that were syntactically correct and would compile, but were incorrect for the code he was writing. And a linter is like a lint trap on a dryer. It catches all the little fibers and stuff to filter them out. And a software or code linter is a program that, like a lint catch for a dryer, will go through your code and look for lint. Lint is referring to mistakes or things you've done that are not the convention. A linter can reformat your code as well, but typically what it's used for is detecting issues with semantics, if you can. So not initializing a variable. In some languages, like I said, you don't have to. Well, what if your coding style is to always do that? You can enforce it with a linter. You could also look to make sure that if you reference a global, that you've got the global declaration, and using a letter G in front of a variable helps you with that. The other thing you can do is you could look for the declaration for a global, and if it doesn't have the letter G in front, you're not following your standard. So it's a way of imposing standards. So I thought, since HyperCard, and I've looked, nobody has written a linter for HyperTalk. I'd go ahead and throw one together because I need to at least check for some common things. So that's what today's code is about. So what we got in the comments? Pascal is supposedly where HyperCard got its end keyword from. Okay. There were other languages before Pascal that did an end statement, and there's a lot of pseudocode, which came out about the same time as Pascal, really, or at least common use for it, where it was you would do end if, but instead you'd spell if end if backwards or something like that, so that would be the end of the if. I don't remember where that was used, but I remember seeing it somewhere. So what else we got here? Yeah, it was all curly, brace and brace must be in the same column, but since auto indent is built into modern IDEs, that's true. A lot of linter functions are built into the integrated development environments now, and you can impose rules that you would have in a linter that way. HyperCard makes it hard to enforce the gfoo rule, though. It does. Yeah, you gotta look at your variable watcher and stuff. So what I did was, there's some basic linter functions that I want to implement, like just list all the globals, list all the functions and handlers. Global variables must start with G. Local variables must first use set or put. Again, a local variable is initialized to empty when you first use it, but most of the time you put something in a variable before you use it, so even having to, oops, I misspelled variables. See, there's a typo. Anyway, long story short, I thought I'd start building up a linter. So I have the infrastructure for the code already here. So the basic idea is that you pick a stack and keep track of which one stack you're going to be linting. And then you have these functions, and they're optional. Initialized to their name. Haha, yes. It's one of the things that annoys me about HyperCard, and you're right, I forgot. If you use a local variable, without initializing it, it ends up being the name of the variable that you end up with. So, unquoted string literals. Yeah, I forgot about that. I thought it was empty. You're right. It would be nice if it were empty. That's what I tend to do, is I'll declare it by just putting empty in the variable. And HyperCard is a bit like COBOL, where there's multiple ways to add one and one together. In COBOL, you can say 1 plus is an operator, or 1 the plus sign 1. In HyperCard, you can do left-handed or right-handed assignment statements. So you can set a variable, or you can put something in a variable. And I tend to follow one style for that. So anyway, so here's a short list of things that I want to do. Looking at the code. Oh yeah, and then there's a little icon here for let's execute it. So I've got a little bit of handler stuff in here. There's a suspend stack, resume stack, whatever. I'm using my development tools, and really the linter should probably be part of the development tools, but this is my working solution. So that loads that. Suspend stack. Okay, get stack path is a helper function that I've just got in general. I'm not using it for this, but it's there. Lint scripts source file. Source file is actually the stack name. And what you can do in HyperTalk is you can open a stack. So you actually lock the screen and then go to the stack that you're going to work with. And then you can reference the scripts for a stack by doing script of this stack, and that'll get the main script for the stack itself. But you can also reference script of this background, or go through the various objects, because buttons can have scripts, so you can reference each button script or a field or whatever, or the background of a card or the card script. So what this code does is it just scrolls through all the source code and then calls the linter for each bit of source code and says do whatever. There's some limitations in that. And I don't want to just lint each object script in isolation. You want to keep track of, you know, how am I going to tell that I've got a global that I didn't reference with global inside, you know, a button script, if I don't keep track of the fact that it's part of the global list overall. So what we got here, like the select line of field 1 gives you line 1 of field 1, but you can set the select line of field 2 to the select line of field 1 and it'll work, or something like that. Yeah, there's some oddities about HyperTalk that are annoying to me, because they were attempting to do something that would, like, oh, if you just throw English at it, it'll figure it out. Well, you know, it's impossible to do that consistently. So you end up learning one style of scripting and you stick to it usually. Anyway, so I pulled all this code from the home stack. So let's go there. Yeah, save those changes. So if we go home, the home stack has several things in it in the stack kit, including power tools. And there's a couple of things inside the power tools, like super grouper is something that helps you group together controls. I haven't used it, but I could see it being useful. You can create palettes that you can use for your own tools. There's a external command for searching a container or showing a list, that kind of thing. But one of the things in here is where is it? Export a stack scripts. And there's a button here. You can point it at a stack and it'll export the scripts to a text file. So you could use it to either back up all your scripts, or maybe you want to do something with them. So if you look at the button for that, you know, on the mouse up it does some things. Anyway, so this is a good example of how you can reference the scripts for a stack, and I leverage this to do the linter. So let's go back. Oh, go recent. I keep forgetting you have to dig through here. All right, so that's pretty much it for the basic where I'm at with it. Power Tools is probably my favorite bundled stack. All my home stack do start using stack Power Tools at startup. Yeah, that's something you can do. You can include the stack code from any other stack in your stack you're working on. That way you can reference the functions. I tend to go to it and pull the code that I need from it instead of referencing it remotely. And that's because I usually modify it in some way. But yeah, that's a good way of doing that. Now that does make your stack dependent on another stack. And if you mess around with a home stack, you could break something. But they even have handlers to detect F15 to bring up supergrouper. Well, I'm going to have to look into that because, you know, I do line things up, but I just do it manually. Okay, so code. So this is where I left off last night. So the lint, the script, will, see here, put faults into rule list globals. So I'm initializing my variables. These are the rules, and then I go through the card buttons and look to see if it's a checkbox. If it is, I look to see if it's, you know, one of these. And you notice that this is not going to work. No, it is going to. No, it's not, because I misspelled that. So I'm gonna fix that. Oh shoot! I keep hitting Control C to actually copy. I'm not comfortable yet with the keyboard. Keep, you know, supposed to use Command, not Control. So let's go into the buttons. This is something that's also a pet peeve of mine. The name of the button is used as the label, and I wish that they had a label feature so that you could have a label for a button and you could name it something else, because now I have to refer to the entire label as the button name. Put an on control key handler in your home stack that handles. Yeah, I should do that. That's a good idea. It'll keep me from screwing around with it. Thank you. You're full of helpful advice. You've done this before. Yeah, and I do refer to them by number, but I just went ahead. That way, if I add one, it'll put it in there. You see, I've got this else with unknown rule. So if I add one and I don't code for it. Yep. So scan each line and apply the rules. So I repeat through the number of lines in the script. Stick that line into a variable called the line. Take word 1. Now, chunking expressions are pretty powerful in HyperCard and HyperTalk, and I'm still working on them. I know how to use some of them. I'm not very fluent in it, and one of the things that I need to do is I don't think this is going to work. Delete word 1 of the line, because what I need to do is look at the rest of the line, because you can declare a global as a list that's comma separated of variable names. I don't do that myself, but you need to. Yeah, first extension of my HyperCard clone was to give buttons a title property. Yeah, so that you don't have the that problem. I think a lot of the successors to HyperCard did the same thing. You could see Visual Basic as being a successor, and it does that. It's got a label attribute. Okay, so if rule list globals, it sticks the global into the results. If rule global start with a G, then I'm going to check to see if each one of these starts with a G. Apple script. Yeah, I was going to try to use Apple script because I want a little more structure, and then when I got into it, I realized that it's compiled and in HyperCard using AppleScript means that you basically have no debugging or anything. It just has to work. That's definitely not for me. So we're here where we're checking to see whether or not word 2 of the line has a G in front of it. But what we really need to do is look for each item. Comma is the default delimiter for lists, so I don't have to set that. What do they call it? The line. Okay. If the first character of word Y of line, the line, is not G, then global not named with line. So I want to output some kind of thing. I'm putting the line number in here. Earlier I output which script it's working on. And I want to hit the escape key. Put X and tab and so we want to have word Y, global, oops, global variable. Actually, I keep doing that too. You could do two ands and it'll do a space. Word Y of the line and is missing G prefix. And that's a little long, so I'm going to do our line extension. Okay, so this should, if I didn't screw up the code, actually look for that rule. Might as well just go ahead and do these. Now I've got it going to a script that I started called Annoyed Trout. Supercard 3.5 already had the local keyword. Oh. Where is trout? Oh, okay. I must, oh, I was working on my laptop and I don't have everything in exactly the same location. So, Annoyed Trout is here. Open. No such card. Debug. If button Y of card buttons. So that's not right. What the heck was I thinking there? Oh. Oh, that's right. Now let's see, it's on the Annoyed Trout card because it stopped in the middle of it. Go back. Go back. No, it's not going to do it. Go recent. There we go. See, in the background, it's opening up card button Y. Yeah. You can tell I was throwing this code together last night. I have a tendency to do that too. I'll write a lot of code before I test it. Um, and that's not necessarily the way you should do this. You should test frequently so that you don't have a whole bunch of stuff you have to fix because you were lazy and didn't do that. Did anyone ever do a TDD framework for HyperCard? Yeah, of card buttons. TDD. What's that acronym stand for? I'm having a brain fart right now. TDD framework should be fairly straightforward. They actually be cool. Somebody tell me what a TDD framework. Oh, test-driven development. Ah, thank you. That's because I never did test-driven development except for briefly on my own stuff, because I could never convince any of my the places I worked to actually invest the time and effort in setting up test-driven development. Their whole attitude was, well, you should just write the code correctly in the first place. Yeah, it'd be interesting to figure out how to do that. Yeah, what would test-driven development look like for HyperCard or HyperTalk? Okay, so let's try it again. Export done. Okay, so here's the export. See, the results. I've got an uninitialized variable. Okay, put that after the results. So that's why. I need to fix that. I don't know if that stack's got all that much code in it, honestly. I should probably change stacks that I'm testing this with. So let's go test. Oh, what the heck? Let's test Adventure. Adventure's got a lot of code in it. So this might take a while. File not open. Debug. Oh, I forgot to change some code. So here's some of that boilerplate I copied over. This should be put instead of write, because what the original thing does is throw this all into a file. after the lint. What? Am I mixing up my variables? Oh, this is the variable I pass in. I don't want the results. You're saying the ugly code that is untested and not working right. Okay. Again, didn't test things fully. Corporate overlords also confuse unit testing for QA testing, and oh yeah, yeah, another rant about testing. The we have for change management, we've got several kinds of testing. We've got unit testing that the developer performs themselves. And we all know developers are notoriously bad at testing their own code. They don't think like users, and they also are lazy sometimes and don't do border conditions and things like that. And if they do test it, they do it undocumented and they do it as they're coding, right? So worst case scenario, you get it compiled as a reason for their code. Best case scenario is like, yeah, I did all the testing and everything, and it's documented here. Or test-driven development would be even better. So we've got that, and then the next level up from that is, I call it DTMB testing. So we work in agency services, and I have our business analysts, because they won't allow us to hire quality assurance people to do any testing. So the business analyst who is doing the requirements capture and everything does their own testing, and that testing is supposed to mimic what our customer, who is responsible for testing, does. So the idea is that it's unit tested by the developer. They say it's done. It gets tested by our business analyst to make sure that it functions. And they're not doing unit testing, although unit testing is supposed to inform them about what kind of testing they should do. Because if there's border conditions and things like that in the code, it should be included. And a lot of times our requirements are too vague because of time constraints. So you're relying on the developer to think about the things that they need to do for, border conditions and things like that. And then we have the BA run through a bunch of testing to make sure that it appears to be functional and solves the actual request of the customer. And then it goes to user acceptance testing, and the customer performs that. And that, in theory, is at least the same tests that the business analyst did. What really happens is unit testing is very light and not really done, and they don't bother to tell the BA what they did for unit testing. The BA doesn't have access to that system, or can't because our customer won't let us, or because it's got sensitive information and they don't want out, or what. Anyway, so it gets into it goes right to user acceptance testing, and we've got one system that doesn't have a UAT. There's no UAT system. There's no staging system. It goes right from development into somebody's workstation where they've got things set up so that it's pointing to a test database. And we've got an end user, super user, who is performing their own testing, but they don't document it, they don't track it, they don't have a test suite that they can where they can repeat testing. It's user seat of the pants testing. That program is a convoluted 20-year-old piece of steaming you know what that is finally going to be redone by a vendor that follows best practices and stuff. So anyway, long story short, it runs the gamut, and a lot of times it's like, we need a break fix today. You don't have time to do all this testing. Just make sure you code it right. is the demand. So the theory of Agile is that unit tests are a safety net so you can change quickly and have confidence you didn't break much. Yeah, but it varies, and we all know that developers run the gamut between really good at unit testing their stuff and thinking about how things should be to it compiled. And depending on how much pressure they're under, even a good developer can do crappy testing, unit testing. And a bad developer never does good unit testing. So, that's how it goes. Unit testing is writing code to report if certain things in the code work properly, not for functional testing. Yeah, and that's the thing too, trying to get across to the customer what the difference is between functional testing. Regression testing, they do understand that. They'll never do it, but they understand what it is. Load testing, we don't have systems that allow us to do that. It basically has to go live to be load tested. Anyway, we don't have a staging environment for some of these things where you can actually make sure you're doing a clean push to before prod. The maturity level is so backwards because of the lack of we've got a customer that just doesn't want to spend money on those things. They don't see it as value added, so they've built technical debt up for years, decades really, and it's a mess. I really should stop talking about it because it annoys me. But anyway, getting back to the code. Okay, I think it ran. Or did it? Another record with the name door already exists. You must change the name. Oh, I didn't want to edit anything here. We're not going to save it. Okay. Let's not do the editor for adventure. That's going to be problematic. Let's do one of the other things. Okay. It found nothing. Okay, we'll just do adventure then. Hey, look. Got it. It scanned the code. Did it actually do anything? I know there are globals in this. Doesn't look like it found anything though. Alright, so what we got going on? Let's set some breakpoints and see what's going on in here. writing code for 25 years and you're sick of it. Yeah, I'm fortunately now in management, so I don't have to write code that I don't want to write. I only write the code I want to write, and I still want to do it. Yeah, CAD stuff, that'd be cool. Isn't Lisp one of the programming languages used for a lot of CAD stuff, like AutoCAD or something? Or am I thinking 20 years ago? Because I think there's still a lot of programming involved in CAD development. Maybe my recollection of what it was like to do CAD is a little out of date. My father was a draftsman, really. He didn't have a university degree. He got his start doing machining and moved into CAD, and in between there he was doing a lot of drawing on paper. That was how you did it back then. He got into doing cam operated machinery and stuff like that and designing those, and he passed away in the 80s, but had just gotten into using computers for the first time to do CAD. And yeah, for modern CAD you don't write code anymore. Anyway, but I think the new hotness at the time was a 286 when he was doing all this stuff, and really got geeked out about using a computer-aided design. But and then he passed away. So it was kind of cool there for a while because we finally had interests that intersected each other. And he would just drill me for information about programming and stuff like that because he was really wanted to learn more about how CAD worked. So, okay, so we're gonna set a breakpoint here and see what's going on with the rules. Let's go back, execute it again. All right, let's get this out of the way. Here's our variable watcher. So here's our the variables going on in the script. They're all set to false. So here's our line that we're parsing on play file. So it's actually a handler declaration. Oh, resize the message box. Yeah, I need to add code to do that. I've got a developers stack that I execute that does things like change the font size on here and all that. I should do the same thing for the variable watcher. Okay, there was a global. Let's start over. I lost track of where I was at. All right. Okay, here's a global. Okay. What's rules? Oh, they're all set to false. It's not reading the rules. Okay, need to set a breakpoint here. Should have tested this stuff last night. It has an invisible grow box. Okay, so what we got going on here? That's interesting. My loop for the card buttons is not working. Probably because I'm no longer on the card. Ah, that's a problem. So let's do this. Let's go back. Let's put these in globals. And before we go to the stack, so we really only need to do this once anyway. We're going to change these to globals. I'm sorry if this is painfully slow to watch, but I had to do some snow shoveling the other day, and I've got arthritic hands, and my hands are killing me today. So there is that. I really should have put a topical analgesic on them, but I didn't. Okay, so defaults in that, and we gotta rename these. Okay. Ouch. We're going to have to refer to those globals inside here. Okay. Try again. They're still all false. What did I miss? Obviously I'm doing something wrong here in the loop. Button Y is checked. It should be style of button Y. Yeah. You're right. Put the fingers on the right keys. There we go. Now it should do something here. Ah, okay. I think we got something. So let's just run through the code and see what happens. Hey, look at that. So line 2 is outputting some stuff. Still got bugs in here. So this is answering these are the global variables. And it looks like the results is still cropping up here. So we're getting somewhere. Oh, I hate this. It doesn't repaint the screen properly. Always wanted a syntax like X is a Y. Yeah. Isn't there a function for is a or I seem to recall there's something. It's not a function, but a keyword. Like is a number. It's really for checking the type of a variable. Is a operator. Okay, is a operator. 129 and 344. Oh, I'm looking at the HyperTalk 2.2 book. Okay, existence and type operators. The existence operators, there is a and there is no, are unary. That is, they take a single operand and report whether the specified element exists. So that's telling, type operators is a and is not a. Report whether the specified element or container is a particular kind of type thing or not. For information, part 3, the elements of HyperTalk. Because of complexity, these operations are fully documented in that section. Okay, so that must have been the other 400, whatever. Uh, 344, so man, that hurts. Is a operator. Data is a number, integer, point, rect, angle, date, logical. So that's really checking a data type. Yeah, it's too bad they didn't do something like that for is a style, things like that. Yeah, I really like this book. It's one of my go-to books. Let me switch screens here. Why does this tablet go into screen save mode? So this HyperTalk 2.2, the book, Dan Winkler wrote most of HyperTalk, and it's a function by function reference. It's a really nice book. Even though it's for 2.2, it's still very useful. And then the other book that's sort of my other go-to for, you know, what to do with the functions is the Complete HyperCard 2.2 Handbook by Danny Goodman. Another excellent book, nice and hefty. There's a few other books that I use, but they're buried right now, so I'm not going to pull them out. There's a book by one, I forget the author's name. He's was part of the oh shoot, now I can't remember the name of the group. Anyway, did some great early software and in HyperCard in the earlier versions. Also did later versions, and wrote a book about different things you could do with version 1. Anyway, it was really nice. Yeah, if field 1 is a number, yeah. Oh yeah, as long as it is 2.x, yeah, it works pretty well. Yeah, unfortunately, they're not in the Internet Archive, I think because of copyright issues. You can borrow them from the Internet Archive, but you can't download them and keep them. Hey Trina, thanks for joining. Anyway, so this is the idea behind it. I need to figure out what the heck is going on with the result. Oh, that's right, I moved that code to set it. Put empty into the results. That should take care of that. So let's run it again and see what we get. We don't need this breakpoint. Okay, so here's a reference to a global. I need to change it to say, you know, not just the variable name. Otherwise you can't tell what the output's really telling you. Of course, I don't have any globals that don't have the prefix G in front of them in that code. So I need to set up a dummy stack that tests all these rules. So let's do that really quickly. So I don't want to break anything. So new stack. We'll put it under. I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon, so gotta do some things this morning. I need a bunch of shelves in the garage. Oh, sorry. Switch this camera back. You can see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to create a new stack. Lint test save. We're going to go into the stack and we're going to put on open stack and open stack, and we're going to do a bad global foo needs a prefix. Well, that's a good point. I'm not checking for comments and getting rid of them, so that's going to cause errors. And then we're going to do on bar end bar. Put empty into foo. So there's the use of a global without the global declaration. Missing global reference. And then on foo bar and foo bar, we could put we could use so we're gonna put foo into, we'll just put foo through using it. Yes, save them. And we're just going to use our lint test. Okay, foo needs a G prefix. Global variable foo is missing G prefix. Okay, so it still had the comment in there. I'm going to have to do something to ignore comments. Anyway, so there you go. It's the beginnings of a linter. I'm sure I'm going to change it around because I don't quite like how it works, but that's it. That's the tool for today. I need to get going, so let me switch the screen back here. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. Like and subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you don't like it, go ahead and hit the down arrow or thumb button, because engagement's engagement as far as the algorithm's concerned. And thank you for all the helpful advice and tips. You know, going through the exercise of writing your own interpreter for HyperTalk and your own version of HyperCard will definitely teach you the internals on all this stuff. I've never wanted to put the time and effort into building something like that, but it's impressive doing that. One of the things I enjoyed in college was developing and writing my own programming language and compiler for it and stuff. It can be a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work, so props to you. Anyway, gonna just end it here. Thanks a lot for joining, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, it's DOScember or DOSember, depending on whether you're a gamer or not. But for DOSember, I've got this 486 laptop I've been working on. I finally got all the hardware taken care of for it, so I'm going to show that off next time, and we're going to do a little bit of DOS programming in it. So it won't be a HyperCard stream next time. It'll be a DOS stream. Something new and different. See you guys later. Here comes the outro. Where's the button for the outro?